I'm about ready to put in the latching relay, and it's going to be taking out my alternator so I can bypass my alternator so that the load is taken off the engine. And I want to talk a little bit about this latching relay. And probably the first thing that a lot of people see is there's a lot of wires connected to this thing, and where do you connect everything? Well, I basically didn't know the answer to that myself, and you basically get yourself a voltmeter that allows a tone, ideally a tone, and then you basically just poke around until you figure out what goes to what, okay? And even after that, once I get it connected where I believe it should be, I check my final outputs and make sure that the lines are going where I want them to go. Okay, so when it's off, this thing is completely disconnected. When it's on, they're connected and going to the right input and output. And I also labeled the input. This is going to actually, the way I'm going to do this is, I'm going to disconnect my plug, and I bought basically a second plug. This was $11 on eBay, and it's the only place I could find one for the alternator. And by doing it this way, should this system fail, or let's say that this latching relay fails and I need to charge my system and it's nighttime and this solar panel obviously can't be keeping the battery charged and the ignition system running, I have to just basically pull over to the side of the road, disconnect this, and go back to my original wiring and be on my way. Okay, so this is basically going to allow me, it's a double pull, double throw, and you can see the wires going in and the wires going out. There's 4 of them. Okay, so it's basically managing 2 independent wires, okay? And that's basically going to the alternator so that when I do a total shutdown of my charging system, nothing is going to be on. Okay, and I just wanted to shoot a video just before I install this. And the switch, let me go get the switch. Okay, this is the switch that I'm going to have to use. And you can see that it's got a pole in the center and it's got a pole on each side. And I'm trying to do this with one hand, but basically it should have been a momentary, but I could not find a momentary anywhere in any store. I went to about 3 or 4 different stores, and I'm going to have to special order one on the internet. And that's been a problem with this entire project, is everything has to be special ordered, and the specifications on these parts are not readily stated when you buy them on Amazon, but you don't have any other choice because, you know, you just got to try it out. But anyway, what this is going to allow it to do is momentary up and back off, and then this basically doesn't have any amperage draw because it's held on by a magnet. That's why it's called a latching relay. And sometimes you can get these relays that doesn't have to reverse polarity like this one. Okay, ideally I didn't really want this style, but I had no choice. Okay, I'd have to dig deeper and figure out where I can get a pulse relay, which basically allows you to hit one button. And right now, if you look at my instrumentation, my buttons I got up here, this basically turns on the solar panel. That's a relay in itself, and that is charging the battery right there. And when I hit this button, it is a momentary button that turns this solenoid on and off. And it was just a matter of luck that this happened to be a pulsing solenoid, okay? And one pulse it's on, one pulse it's off. And this is just for getting it to work. I really don't like having these exposed terminals out like this. I'm looking for some way to cover this up, and I'll probably, just for keeping it safe until I do find a more safe way to do this, is just cover it up with some tape or some type of boot or nylon cloth or something, just so that there's no electrical shorts that could possibly happen across here. But this thing here operates on a pulse to go on and a pulse to go off, which ideally, had this relay worked in that manner, I could have used them both off this switch right here, okay? But because this thing is a is a kind of situation where you have to reverse polarity. It takes a different type of switch. I'm kind of on the fence as to what's the best way to do it, because it's convenient to have just you hit one button and it turns it off, and you hit the same button, it turns it on, and it's doing like 3 circuits at the same time. But what if this thing ever gets to where they're reversed, where one goes on and the other one goes off? If you ever get in a condition like that, you can blow out your alternator, because you never want to have these on and causing a draw and putting amperage into your coil, and then having it, the big thick wire, not allowed to go to the battery, because that will burn out the alternator. So ideally, the safest way, I would say, having 2 different switches and some type of light, a little LED light that comes on to let you know that there's power going to both of them, and to have them independent. So I guess this might be just for the better, even though it wasn't what I originally planned. So anyway, I'm not going to wait for any more parts to come in. I'm going to install this next to the other switch, and as time goes on, I will see how this works and see if I want to consolidate both switches and maybe put in 2 LED lights. That would be kind of some sort of a power indicator to let me know that the alternator's off, and the big thick amperage cable, the 6 gauge, is disconnected. So, but that's future stuff. And today I'm hoping to get out there and do some road testing now that I've got the OBD2 scanner, and that's my hope. So stay tuned for more.